So I would love for us to just dive in. It's a 1 hour long session, and I appreciate all of you taking the time out to meet with us on this panel, have this panel discussion. To quickly introduce myself, for folks who were not in the previous event, I'm Yogesh, the founder of Gubby Studio, and over the next hour, we're going to really focus on discussing, does your business actually need AI? And I would love for us to just quickly, I would love to introduce the panel, who's going to, all the folks here, I appreciate Bea, Brooke, Matt, and Meena for taking the time out to be on this panel. Wonderful people, great business leaders in Vancouver, and I appreciate they taking the time out to share their thoughts with me. So let me quickly hand off the mic to them to introduce themselves, and then we can dive into this session here.
Oh, yeah, sure. All right, hi everyone. I'm Meena Ghani. I help ambitious professionals build their net worth through real estate. I'm developing the tech currently to enable that at scale.
Oh, I have a mic. Hi everyone, my name is Matt, and I'm the founder and co-owner of Brightness Cleaning. We do residential and commercial cleanings, and right now we mainly focus on residential, but we are moving towards commercials, buildings, stratas, co-op housing, and yeah, that's how we plan to grow our company.
Well, my name is Beda, I go by B. I run CGEM, the marketing connector. I used to be an engineer, but a super connector in the marketing space. I essentially connect businesses to the right marketing partners after having vetted over 1,157 of them over the last 7 years. And that's what I do full-time, and I love talking about human connection as well.
Hi, I'm Brooke Finley. I'm the founder and CEO of Navio Immigration, and I'm also a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. And I've been at this work for a long time and noticed that often people who are navigating Canadian immigration processes have two options. They can hire a law firm that often costs more than they can justify, or they DIY and are second guessing every step. And so we are building the middle ground, and we have a proprietary web app and intersperse that with human expertise to make immigration more accessible.
Thank you to the four of you for that wonderful introduction. And as you know, I would say that all of you are here today to, I'm using the clicker for the first time, so I'm trying to see if okay, perfect. So what we're going to do today is really talk about whether a business needs AI. If they do, how do they do it? Whether AI is the right fit for you, for your business. And I did want to pull up this framework real quick, but instead of me walking you through this like a lecture, I would love to go through a discussion here with the wonderful people here who have had experience with AI, with different tools, and would love to get their thoughts on what their take is when it comes to AI and automation. So let's dive right into it. The very first question that I have for every one of you is, when you think of AI, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Meena, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'd be happy to start. So I think immediately with AI, my thought is efficiency and the enablement of scale. So when you're really looking at how you can leverage AI in your business, it's more so, how can I effectively allocate AI tools to help enable me to scale my business? And it's not so much replacing the things that you should be doing. It's really looking at what should I not be doing that I can automate so that it frees me to do the things that I'm really good at that will help my end users.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, okay, so for me, when I think about AI, I think of a better version of Google. I use it mostly to search for stuff, and it's nice when it gives me a response and I'm able to ask it more questions. Besides that, when I think about AI, I think about chatbots, voice bots, and to me it's more like it's like a car where I can drive, but I just don't know what all the buttons do, so that's just my opinion.
And when I think about AI, there's a few different things that kind of come up. Is one, I think people can move way faster than they used to and be able to do things at a much higher level than what they could before. So for example, a small business owner before probably would have to put a lot of effort to building out an email newsletter, getting it all set up, and getting it out there. And even if they did it, it'd be like a 2 out of 10 level. Now you can kind of like, the baseline has risen, where like you'll still get a 4 or 5 out of 10 level, so you can run more marketing channels. And if you look at kind of like how marketing has shifted over the last few years, right, people went from advertising, and now you actually need to hit customers with so many different touch points. And AI kind of gives that small business owner a little bit more tools to be able to do that at a much better scale. So I'm really seeing that happen. And on the bigger business side, people are able to do so many things with data that they could have never done before. Things that required so much human power, even if they had a skill of 200 humans doing it, they couldn't do it. I'm talking about like 9-figure type projects that like map the entire Canada, looking at geographical mountain ranges, and then deciding like where they're going to put the reinforcements so the mudslides don't happen. Do you do it in the area that has 400 homes, or are you going to do it in the area that has a hospital plus a couple other homes next to it? And so being able to make those decisions from a very wide end.
So for me, when I think of AI, the core of our business is about improving access to justice, and we use it as a means to allow our humans to do more humaning, so build better connections, serve more people. And I think there's a misconception like of AI allows us to do more and do it faster, but like to what end? So for us, it's not just scale and growth for the sake of it, but it's actually being able to serve more people and build deeper, better connections and do more of the stuff that people actually care about and less of the stuff that, who cares if a bot does it or if a human does it.
No, that's wonderful. And if you think about it, everything that Meena said, Matt, Brooke said, they really summarize what you're seeing on your screen here, right? With me talking about how marketing has evolved and how AI has helped to some extent, with Brooke talking about using AI to humanize things more, right? Is that, Brooke, that's what he was saying, right? So if you really think what they were saying, this was pretty much a summary of what you see on your screen, where AI has different potential, right? It's used differently, whether it's about automating fully for the low task, which is right at the bottom left, or if you think about the top right, which is human call only. So there are several tasks which Matt was referring to, that is something that humans would do or would prefer. They would not feel comfortable giving it to an AI at this stage. The other question that I had for the panel, and Meena, let me start with you. Based on my knowledge and based on my interactions with you, you're probably, like Brooke, you're probably one of the few folks who are a technical expert when it comes to AI in the real estate space. Would love to hear your take on how do you use it, what have you used it for, and what has your experience been using it?
Yeah, so, check, okay. So I guess I use it in a multitude of ways. Predominantly in terms of the offering, it's more around generative data to ensure that when I'm working with clients, I'm giving them meaningful information to help them make informed decisions. And I think that's because there's a wealth of information out there for everyone to have access to, but it's not necessarily distilled in a meaningful way. And there are many hidden insights in that data. So I see myself as the person who can extract that based on what my client's looking for specifically in their strategy towards wealth or building their net worth, utilizing real estate as a tool. And then from an operational standpoint, I really, really leverage AI to help me scale, like I said, because I'm a startup person through and through, and I'm very scrappy, and I know that it's really important to operate lean. So where I can, I was actually sharing this with Axel up there and Connor a few minutes ago, and I was talking about how voice agents have literally saved me hours every day, because there are so many people that are reaching out to get information and they want to sign up, but they're not necessarily ready to go. But I can leverage voice agents to actually do that upfront qualifying of those leads to determine how I'm going to bring them into the system and and where to start with them. So I think that's huge. But with that said, I think it's really important to emphasize that any founder or anybody who's thinking of becoming a founder or solving a problem, be hyper obsessed with your problem statement. Know the ins and outs of why you're doing what you're doing, because that's going to really inform how you actually set the systems that you need in place for your business. And once you know those systems, then you have an understanding of which AI tools you specifically can leverage for your business. Otherwise, you are just going to be subject to everyone having a perspective on the tool that you need. And that can get very costly very quickly. So always know your problem, make sure that that's your North Star, refer back to that, and identify the best and most efficient systems that you need in place to continue to solve that problem.
That's wonderful, Meena, and I'm glad you're a part of this panel, because I think you touched upon some key points, which was you started talking about the lower layer, which is like voice agents, which is repetitive information, nothing that's very risky. It's like booking appointments or providing FAQ answers. And I think you bring up a very important point, which I would like for the folks sitting in the audience to take away, is identify the problem. Don't just jump into AI because everyone's talking about AI. Understand what is the problem that you need the AI for, because with the hype and with everything, it's easy for you to think that, hey, you need it, but even before you jump there, think about what is the problem and if AI is the right fit. Anything you would add there, Meena?
Yeah, if I may, because you said something that also just reminded me, a really key consideration to keep in mind is that unfortunately, there is not a centralized regulatory system for AI. And as you all see, AI is being developed so quickly. It is evolving every single second of the day. So as you decide that you're going to use AI in your business and implement it, be hyper cautious of the information that you're giving into AI, right? Because ultimately, if you're doing something that could potentially give off personal information about one of your clients or your end users, that's irresponsible on your behalf. Because right now we're living in a very fragile state where there has not been regulated AI, and so we don't really know what's going to come out on the other end of it. So think about that before you immediately jump into using AI for your business as well.
No, wonderful. As I hear the word regulated, Brooke, you're the one I think of. Yeah. So you're in the most regulated industry, law, immigration, definitely an industry where saying anything incorrect can have implications, not just for you, but even for your potential customers. I know you are the second expert here in the AI space. You build your own AI proprietary software for immigration. What's your take when you think about AI, when you think about these frameworks, when you think about this hype out there? How would you say one should be thinking about AI, whether it's for the regulated field you are in, or how did you approach adopting it for your industry or even for your operations in a broader fashion?
Yeah, it's a really good loaded question. So making sure you have people on your team who are at the bleeding edge of the security and compliance, like that's not me. I'm an immigration expert, so I have those people around me to make sure, that when we built our platform, that, the data is being stored in secure ways. And in terms more generally of using AI in a highly regulated space, it's certainly, there are limitations, but looking at ways to eliminate mundane tasks that don't require sharing any confidential client information. Like there's so many ways that you can use technology, and I think one thing I just want to touch on, because as a non-technical person that somehow managed to lead building a web app, which my husband is in IT and he still shakes his head. He's like, I don't understand how you did this. I'm like, me neither. But looking at, it doesn't always have to be sexy. Like our app started out just rules-based, technically AI, but not AI, I think, as most of us think of it today when we think of agentic and stuff. But looking at where are you spending your time? Do a time energy audit of 2 weeks of your time. Where are you spending it? And what are the lowest value things that you're spending your time on? and how could you automate that? It doesn't always have to be, and often isn't, the sexiest looking technology, but if it takes that off your plate, then you spend more time doing the stuff that people actually, like your clients, actually care about. For example, in our space, because we are highly regulated, we have to keep detailed records of everything. Our clients don't care that that takes us a substantial amount of time. So automating that record keeping so that our humans, and that, like, labor is the biggest cost in my business, keeping that, dedicated to the highest value activities that we can possibly be engaged in.
That's actually pretty good to know. I had a quick follow-up question for you. If I think about this graph here or this framework here, you spoke about data entry, automating that in a highly regulated field. My assumption or my interpretation would be that we are still in the low minimal impact place, maybe somewhere extreme right, like AI assist and human directs. Like, you use AI as a starting point, or you're somewhere between the second and the third quadrant at the bottom. Would you agree, or would you say that's probably not the right place to fit it in?
It depends on what aspect of the business. There's a lot of it that is highly repetitive, and the cost of getting it wrong is like medium to low, in terms of, like, sending out the same intake form, sending out the same basic set of instructions to, begin a project. And so automating all of that. But then where we now get to spend more of our time is in that top right, the human call only, where it requires interpretation of law and jurisprudence and application of that, and judgment and intuition, that our humans now, our experts, can spend more time doing that than, sending out the same set of instructions by email to somebody, 100 times, 200 times a year.
No, it makes sense, Brooke. And as I was hearing you speak, I thought of a question for you, B. I remember the very first conversation I had with you when I invited you on the panel. I reached out to B and I was like, B, I'm doing this panel. Would you be kind enough to be a part of it? And I'm pro AI, right? Like, so is B. But and I run a business called Gubby Studio, where my business is to sell AI to businesses, right? Of course, I'm not going to sell it to someone who doesn't need it. B's like, you sure you want me to be on it? Because I'm pro AI, but I have hesitations on where I would use it and where I would not use it. So I would love to talk a bit more about it, because I remember there are certain frameworks, and maybe that was the reason we decided to put together, because you had a take on how do you decide what to use AI for or what not to use it for. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, just given the kind of position I'm in with my business, I talk to a lot of people, both from the business side and the marketing side. So I get to see a lot, and I go to a lot of events. And so with AI for me, like, in terms of the way that I kind of think about how I use it, in certain areas like I don't use it in, or I have it as an assistant. Like, one is like my strategic thinking. I don't want to lose my strategic thinking. I want to be like, there are certain things that happen in business where you need to sit with what's happening, and it's going to take you a little bit of time to figure out what the actual solution is. And me just jumping over to AI and being like, this is my problem, what do I solve it? It's just going to give me a bunch of generic stuff, and it might feel right initially as you go through it. Once you go down the path, you're like, oh no, this is not it. Like, there was a whole other lesson that I missed. And so I think like the fractional CMOs that I work with and people that were like hard into AI, using it for everything, were like, I actually forgot how to think. And that's like terrifying to me, because that's all I love doing. It matters to me to be able to come up with the deeper understanding of things. And then number two is like the whole connection aspect. Like, humans need to connect. A lot of times I've seen that people want to partner with me. I've talked to a lot of agencies. People go, I'll partner with you, blah, 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 great. And then an email comes in and it's like this 3-paragraph thing. They probably put like 5 seconds into a voice note, and now I need to read 3 paragraphs with someone who wants to partner with me that was built through AI. That's not the way to build a relationship. It's not a way to build a connection. That's not going to go away. And we don't really think about it. It's like, cool, we're getting all this efficiency because I can send out more emails. Cool. Do you know how many emails are going to come back at you? Same amount that you're sending out, and they're going to be even longer for you to read. So there's a whole aspect of human connection in AI that, as a connector, I want to be very wary of. And I have models for this where like I have 7 different layers in terms of like the connections that I have, and like my top 3 levels will never be any AI support because it's my deepest relationships in life. But then there's another area where I might have assisted aspects to it, or remind me, hey, you haven't messaged this person, you haven't done this. So there's really interesting areas to use it in. Sorry? No. So that's kind of like the areas that I'm kind of really wary of. Yes.
I would just love to see that framework.
Okay.
Really, if you
Okay.
offer that,
Yeah.
done that.
Find me afterwards, I'll share the room model with you, yeah, that'd be great. And that's kind of like the way that I kind of think about AI. One other thing I'll tell you, because a lot of people I'm sure here are going to build brands. If you're building your brand with AI, in the beginning, great, use the logo feature, use whatever visuals, but as you get to a certain point, your messaging has to be dialed in, your ICP has to be dialed in, and that's not something AI is going to be able to do without you actually strategically thinking about it. You're going to find it's going to fall very, very flat, because you want to elicit emotions, and AI is not great at eliciting emotions.
Yeah. No, great point. I know, Brooke, you had something to add over there. You raised your hand, so.
If you want to go off script.
No, definitely. We'd love to go off script. I think that's where the best part lies, right? When you go off script. So.
So with the absolute utmost respect, I disagree. And I think this is the interesting part about discussions around AI. And like, just as you were mentioning those things, I 100% agree. I think it's about how you approach your use of the tools and what you expect of it. I 100% agree. I use it in every aspect. I'm a super user. And in terms of the strategic thinking, like being able to just brain dump everything that's in your mind and then all the things that you're thinking and be like, just like make this succinct for me. So not asking it to do the strategic thinking for you, but asking it to make sense from like very messy what's in your head. And maybe that's just me. I don't know. But my ideas come out and it's just a huge mess. My CEO is like, what the fuck? And has to translate that to something my team can work with. But that's just okay, so maybe it's not a disagree, but just another like nuance of how it can be used in those circumstances. And I schooled any of the tools that I'm using a lot, and I'm like, this doesn't need to be a 3-paragraph email. Make it succinct. Like, don't do that again, please. And to accelerate that like speed to having the human connection. So that's just what I would add on like how I've used it. Even just to accomplish that, but same thing, like still build those really deep connections and not replace it, and how I just help it make sense of all the stuff going on inside my head.
Cool. I think it's you're not replacing your strategic thinking. You're using it as an assistant.
Yes,
to your strategic
100%.
thinking, which I think is a useful way to use it. And different brains work differently. I'm an engineer. I like to take complex things and then learn how to simplify them and understand like the thing underneath it. And I will use sometimes AI to be like, what am I missing? How else should I think about this? And that's an added benefit. But ultimately, like I'm not just using it to be like, okay, what should I use for strategy?
Solve this for me. Exactly. Like, it's not good at that.
No, this is really good, and if the panel allows, if we go off script on that topic here, if that's okay, and if it's okay with the audience here. So, as we're leaning more into this discussion, and Matt, when I think of you, so like you described, right? Like you're pretty new to AI. Maybe you're still learning. You're a growing property maintenance business here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to bring this up, because we have a very diverse set of audience here. If you see, one is a connector, a really established person in the marketing space. The other one, an established immigration person, that's a regulated space. Someone who's running a property management, cleaning company, and someone who is in real estate, right? So that's very diverse audience. And that too, diverse background. Like I know, Meena, you were director of product at PwC, if I remember correctly, and you've dealt at the enterprise level when it came to automation, when it came to AI. So I would love to take that topic here a bit more and maybe get your perspective, Matt, which is maybe around you're thinking about it, but maybe not thinking about it. And then Meena would take your perspective, like when you think about at the enterprise level, when you think about maybe the high risk places, right? If you go up, if you go to the extreme right of this graph, how would a small business and how would an enterprise approach it? I know this is completely off script, but would love to get some of your thoughts before. But first, Matt, would love your thoughts on what you think about just adopting AI for your business as someone who's new to it.
Yeah, so for me, I just started my business not long ago. It's only been about a year and a half, and I would say I'm very lucky that it's even profitable, right? When I was in school, I went to SFU business, and they always said that most businesses fail, right? So I'm lucky that it's making money. So I never even thought about using AI, and I work with the government. I work for 2 federal government agencies, and we are not allowed to use AI in the office. So the only time I use AI is the only experience I have with AI is ChatGPT, so searching stuff up, and then at the same time, whenever you want to make a complaint to like TELUS or Rogers, and that's when you deal with AI, right? And so it's frustrating. But now that my business has grown to a certain point, I feel like based on my experience, that's why I'm a little bit hesitant with using AI, mainly because the AI that I dealt with is mostly chatbots and voice bots, and it makes it feel like the company is intentionally making it difficult for you to get through to someone or to help you solve your problem. And sometimes it asks questions that's not relevant to your situation. So I hope it's not just me. I hope it's just me that feels that way. But yeah, so that's what I feel sometimes. And then it's also a little bit rigid in that sense, where just an example would be, let's say if I call a credit card company, I want to dispute a charge, but the first thing they ask is, can you give me your numbers? So they follow this very systematic approach,
Yep.
whereas sometimes they don't need to clear confidentiality to answer my question, right? So, and a lot of the big companies use AI, which, how I put this, because my company is small, and so I feel like as a small company, maybe my clients would appreciate if someone who picks up the phone is a legitimate person who can make mistakes rather than a robot, right? Because I'm not at that level yet, but maybe if I grow big enough, I'll use AI as a in the sales front, right? But I think AI could be used on the operation side, on the payroll side, on some aspects of marketing, and I just have to learn how to use it. I have to decide between finding someone who can build that for me, or just paying a system that's already out there. And then I guess the last thing that I want to say is, I don't know about everyone here, but I feel like from reading the news and sometimes Reddit, there may be a negative connotation when it comes to AI, how it's using too much energy, using too much water, taking over jobs. And so if my company, a small company that's still trying to grow, starts to use AI and people see that, what would they think of me, right, as the founders? But anyway, that's just my opinion. Yeah. So.
No, that's wonderful, and I think a lot of businesses are at that stage. I think a lot of small businesses that I speak with are at a very similar stage, and I would think a lot of folks in the audience here today are maybe have a similar perspective where they know there's hype, but they're still hesitant in adopting it for a lot of the things. Yeah. Meena, did you want to add anything before we maybe open the room for the audience and see if they have any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to just pull on the thread of what you mentioned, Matt, the hesitation, I personally think the hesitation is very healthy. In working with Fortune 500 companies in the US, because I was in New York City when I was working for the startups and PricewaterhouseCoopers, the biggest concern was, again, the lack of regulation around how these algorithms are being developed, and how they're actually, lack of effective data sets that these algorithms are being trained on, and the outcomes from that lack of diversity in the data that algorithms are trained on were actually what became quite problematic. So that results in liabilities for businesses. So I think to bring it back, the hesitation is really healthy, but what that can translate into is how can you imagine every possible worst case scenario of all the different applications in which you want to leverage AI for your business so that you can forecast to the best of your ability how to mitigate that. You always want to think about any edge cases of your application of AI. What data are you giving it? Is it really necessary to give that information? And make sure that you're putting the proper guardrails in place ahead of time to protect not just your business from the risks, but also your end users and ultimately your clients. So I would say that, there was a lot of concern around AI, and there were many lawsuits that also made their way into mainstream media around data sets that just weren't diverse enough to capture all of the different use cases for businesses.
Thank you for that. I think that's really helpful. We do have a few more questions to get through, but I think it might be a good time for us to open up the floor and see if anyone in the audience has any questions for the panel.
I have a pretty loud voice. Oh, okay. Everybody hear me? When or is AI actually going to deliver on its promise to redefine the workplace? And I say that as everyone on the stage obviously is a super high performing person who's built businesses, they know their way around this technology. I work with a ton of small businesses, entrepreneurs, freelancers, and some enterprise clients. And most of the people I know in the real world are all still just using chatbots. I use AI way in a far more complex way than they do. And these people are much larger organizations. So I guess my question is, the question no one wants to ask because it's such a hot topic is it's moving the needle for some people, but in my experience, 90% it's not. And in fact, they're investing, in some cases, my clients have tens of thousands of dollars in platforms and AI solutions that are basically not being used, not being implemented. So is that something you're seeing as well, kind of in your position? And if so, how and when do you see that changing?
You want to? Okay, I have something to say to that too.
Oh.
I was in the same boat as you as I was kind of going through it. So what I'm seeing, specifically in the marketing agency space, I am seeing people being let go. But for example, if you need 3 or 4 copywriters before, instead of being 3 or 4, you need 1, maybe 2. It's the same thing on design and all that other stuff. What's also being looked at on my customer side is if I'm not working with a marketing agency that is using AI to better creative, more photo creative, that kind of stuff, they're looking for other people. And they're we need people that are moving faster. Also things down to, I'm seeing a lot of in the marketing front is a lot of dashboards being created. Tools that they couldn't create themselves before, but now they're creating it for their customers. Be you get live daily feedback. So it's opening up opportunities that you weren't able to build your own custom software before without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and then needing to advertise on it. But they're able to build these tools now internally. So I'm seeing that kind of stuff shift. But I also agree with you that a lot of businesses have they still don't know how to prompt properly.
Yeah.
Right? Just even simple prompting is way over their heads. And I think because we're all in it, we don't realize how far ahead we are. I went to a conference, has anyone heard EOS systems? So I went to that conference, and I was in a room, and this guy, this is probably a year ago, right? The guy's are you a basic level prompter, intermediate level prompter, or advanced level prompter? And I'm in an environment where I was I might be beginner to intermediate, and then all of a sudden he started talking what those prompts look like, and 5% of the room were beginner. And I was advanced, far advanced.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can kind of see you do get into a little bit of a bubble around this. But there are jobs being replaced. I don't know if new jobs are coming. And one other thing, I went to TED 2 weeks ago, and there's a lot of conversations around AI. And I wasn't a believer either. I think AI had a ceiling. But there was a guy there speaking, and he raised $250 million, built an AI business, sold it to Google, very well in the midst of a lot of it. He's the only path forward is merging with it because it's going to move so far ahead, and there is going to be pain that comes with job loss and all that type of stuff. But there's also the good aspect to it. There's things that you're doing in healthcare that were never possible before, crazy stuff. So, anyways, I'm sorry for.
I'm pro AI, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-
We're on the same page. Yeah. But there's 2 sides to every coin.
Yeah.
I would add, just kind of pulling on that even further, is looking at what problems are worth solving. And I think a lot of the AI hype, there's been a lot of creating things with AI for the sake of creating things with AI versus what problems are we actually solving? Is this the right problem to be solving? Do people care enough about this problem? So we see a lot of like lack of adoption because it's stuff that like doesn't really move the needle versus the things like when we apply it to things, for example, in healthcare, like in our space, what really drives us, our North Star, is that access to justice piece. Like those are things where it's like, okay, on those like really bigger issues, like societal, systemic issues, it's moving the dial a lot and has a lot of positive potential, I think. And then on the other side, just like from the workplace, like when is it gonna, sorry, I forget the wording you use, but shift the workplace.
Deliver on the promise.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think that's a deployment issue. Like there's not the incentive for adoption or the frameworks and training to be able to, incentivize people to, engage in the behavior that you're seeking.
We can ask that. I mean, okay. I'm just going to echo Brooke because that was the first thing that came to mind. It's about the problem, right? And I alluded to this earlier. Just know your problem statement and the why. And I think the issue is that there's this saturation of all these different companies that are like, you need this AI, you need to do this. And instead of educating people on what the capabilities are within AI, it's just a matter of buy this tool. And people don't even know what they're buying or why they're buying it. So it's that hyper focus on your problem statement, your why, and always referring back to that to understand what's going to enable scale.
I can just talk. Thanks so much. Great talk. My question it actually relates to that as well, of like how you decide today in AI to build something versus buy it. I mean, you mentioned voice agents. Look at voice agents, you buy it, dashboards, all these things. It seems like there's too much selection, and even if you decided it's a good use of AI is actually like 100 different companies that are all trying to sell.
Yeah. I can just talk to my personal experience on that one. It's like a Frankenstein. When I first started, I was just like, okay, I know that I need to set up a voice agent. I know what my workflow is. Again, it was focusing before I even touched any of the different software pieces. It was, what do I need? What's going to enable my why? And as I had a clear understanding of what that end-to-end was that I wanted, it turned into, now I'm going to research which company will give that to me for the cheapest possible price. Because when you're a startup owner, you want to be as lean and as scrappy as possible. So I truly call it like my Frankenstein baby, because I'm using, off the top of my head, just for my voice agent, I'm probably using like 6 different tools to get it through the right workflow. And I don't know if others want to add.
Yeah.
That's like really a hard question to answer because it really just depends on, like, I think when it comes to scale too, like what do you build in-house? Like there's some things you can build and they're done. Like you don't need to maintain, upkeep, add other features. There's other things where you're like, I need to customize this in a certain way. And I know if I go with another platform, I'm never going to get it to the point I want. The question becomes, do you need to customize it to that point, right? And so for me, it's always a question of like, okay, if this is something that my whole team needs to use, and I'm going to be spending thousands of dollars of it a month, maybe I'll spend that time up front just to hire someone to build me something versus using someone else's tool. But if I'm going to spend $12 a month and it solves my problem, and I don't need to build something and waste any time, I'm just going to do that and go focus on the other things, right? So I really think it just depends. And as you scale, I think the question becomes harder and harder to answer because you got to really measure the ROI.
Yeah, similar to that, like we've done both. We use third-party tools and we've built our own. We built our own because we started with other tools, and what we want and what we're building doesn't exist in the marketplace in the way that we wanted it. So we built, and that's on the fulfillment side. But all of our customer acquisition, all of our marketing funnels, sales, it's a CRM. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. Like the ROI on that doesn't exist. So I think, just echoing, does it exist? Can you get something that you can customize enough? Or are you really charting into like an area that is uncharted waters?
great for us. Yeah.
This is building on back to what you were saying, Andy, around the different levels of training, the practice basic. I consider myself very much on the beginner end. I want to ask what are the best ways to skill that AI literacy.
Ask it to teach you, right? Use a tool and ask it to teach you. Hey, this is what I do. How can you help me? What can you do for me? Like, I'm in love with Perplexity Computer right now. And I'm always asking it, like, okay, can you do this? Can you do that? Right? Ask it to teach you how to use it as a starting point.
Yeah, and just don't be afraid to go buy some courses, right? Like a $200, $300, $400 course, like it's gonna pay massive dividends. And just like, even if you pay, like someone asked me later, there's someone that sent me something like, "Beta, just go take this course. It's $115 a month or something like that, and they'll just give you something every single month." So you can just literally go learn that for 3 months. For me as a founder though, like one of the things is that I'm trying to, we've had this chat, how much time do I spend trying to learn AI and build things? Like, as an engineer, I want to understand how things are done, but as a founder, I want to focus my time on building relationships, sales, like the stuff that really drives my business and makes revenue. I know a whole bunch of people in my circle that are like, yeah, I'm spending every day and every night building AI. I'm like, well, how does that help you make any money?
Yeah.
Like, still all this fundamental stuff you still need to do, and now you have other stuff added on top of it. So if you're in a place where you're like, okay, if I learn AI, I can actually create efficiencies within what I do within an organization, within my business, 100% go do it. But just be careful how deep you go into it as a founder, right?
There's also a lot of free content creators that touch on how to do really sophisticated prompts because they want visibility too, and eventually they're going to sell services. But there is a lot of great free content on there. Scrappy startup person, just Google it, or even search on social media. There's a ton of valuable stuff.
Allie K. Miller's a good one.
Yeah,
has a lot of good
digitally
stuff.
create too. So
Yeah.
Allie K. Miller
Allie
and
K.
digitally create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I have a statement and a question. I think the agenda today is, does your business really need AI? Correct me if I'm wrong, but a business really needs its customers because the word need is doing a lot of heavy lifting. How you achieve those customers matter more, right? So that's what I think we're talking about today. So that's the statement I wanted to make. But the question is, we saw a shoe company that went from a shoe company to AI and saw the shares rise to 600% whatever. As a founder, why should I not be corrupted by that approach? Why can I not just be a business and an AI tag or do a really heavy, intense AI marketing around it, get some quick money and then invest that money into good causes later perhaps or whatever, or just enjoy on my yacht? And to add to that question, if there is an AI business that follows the footsteps that you founders have followed, and let's say the cat has to go back in the box, what's the plan then? I know you would say that AI will never do it. But what if the hype goes back up from whatever 250% right now to say let's say 15%, right, where it becomes like SMS and smartphones. It's such an everyday thing, but not really eliminated people or not really eliminated jobs. Hasn't that really that great of an impact other than create new investors and create new companies, which is good and bad at the same time?
Does somebody want to comment on this? I just want to say I love the example because I had a moment where I read that article and I was like, really? That's so unfortunate because it is exactly what you said. I mean, your statement was quite loaded. I totally appreciate that because it really is a matter of, for them, I think specifically, getting the funding that they needed. And of course, their stock prices went right up. So yeah, why wouldn't anybody then want to just attribute their business to doing something in AI? But I think, again, to sound like a broken record, it comes back to your problem statement and the why. So for the most part, I think it's going to be inevitable that AI will be a part of every business. Is it the center of every business? Absolutely not. But is it going to be part of it where maybe it does a few of the operational end-to-end tasks so that it can free you up to do what B was alluding to, which is the services component, being the face, getting out there, providing whatever service it is to your end clients. So I think, again, it comes back to your why. But I don't know if...
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the shoe company is going to keep making these shoes, but they're just using the intelligence? No, okay, they're becoming
They're completely shifting. Yeah. Yeah, it was like very interesting. It has an animal in its name for those that are interested in searching. I know that it's probably best not to mention.
This is more from a broader perspective. Like I think the more I've been in business, the more I've like been in the rooms where people talk about all these big revenue numbers and all these soft shifts. Like you don't actually know what's going on under the hood. You have no idea if they're bleeding money, if they're actually working. Like you don't know how much smoke and mirrors is in the business world until you actually start talking to some of these founders. So sure, they made a shift and moved over and their stock went up. Like that doesn't fundamentally change. Like, are they making money? They're not making money.
Yes.
They were likely doing that because they were bleeding and what they were already doing. Plus, like the amount of PR money they had to do, the marketing. Like, there's so much stuff that, like, just from what you just said, is like we don't see. Right? So what I want to say to like founders or using AI, like, do what feels right to you, that you can do the best for your customers and the problem that you're solving, and that's likely going to be the right path. And AI is going to be an amplifier for whatever you do. Like not take over, but it likely will help you. Like if you had 3 or 4 employees, you're going to be able to do more output. It's like Excel, it's like SMS. What did it do? Like I can text my customers and be like, hey, what's going on with this thing, rather than waiting on an email, for example, right? So it becomes a multiplier for what you can actually do on the efficiency side of things. And I don't know your last question. Like your last part of the question, I don't remember.
Like, if we inspire a generation of founders around AI, and if the cat had to go back in the box or the hype has to die, what is the message to them? What is now then for them to do? Can they pivot back to being what they were pre-AI, or if the AI approach fails, the brand gets affected? So is it a precaution that you take? Obviously, that was the conversation.
Yeah.
But this company, and there are several other companies, as an example, that are now giving a false setting, a false example that okay, everybody can replicate that. So since you are in this ecosystem of Vancouver, and which is filled with really good up-and-coming founders, should we also be cautious about the language?
So I think in business you always have to test, and you always have to do what works for you. So for example, if I'm thinking about one of my customers, he went from having 40 employees in the Philippines, helping him do like order fulfillment, things like that. Yeah. He took it from 40 down to 5. This example came up to me after. I was like, oh, I should have just shared that. But let's say it doesn't work, right? Like right now it's working for him. He's saying like, you know, my operating costs have gone down, everything works well, our customers are even happier. Great. But if it gets to a situation where that doesn't work, he just goes back to his old model. He just starts rehiring, goes through the process. It might take him 6 months to 12 months to build up that team of 40 again, or maybe faster because he's done it. Like we can go back, but I don't think that's the way this is all going, just based on being in the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that first of all, as entrepreneurs, like that's business. Things are always shifting, so you're always adapting. And so if the categorically has to go back in the box, cool. Just another thing we have to respond to and figure out. Like that's every day in entrepreneurship. And I don't think even if it does go from, you know, whatever percent to 15%, it's never going to be the same as it was. It's still going to be something different and new. And to the shoe company, I don't know, I'm living under like a preschooler rock with, so I haven't read this yet. But I think Mina said it, like if you are building an AI company, which I'm not even sure, like it needs a definition, what is an AI company, right? But if you're building a company and you don't know why you're building it or what problem you're actually solving, and then it, you know, the bubble bursts, well, yeah, you're gonna have more problems than you did before. Whereas if you know the problem you're solving and there's a shift in the, you know, technology, that problem still exists. It just exists in a different way and you're going to solve it in a different way.
Any other questions? All right. Let's do a quick time check here. I think we're almost at time. Or
6 minutes left.
6 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Already? Oh, okay. All right, so no, if there are no other questions, we can maybe wrap up here. Anything else you would want to add, panel, as you see these founders, business owners, any last piece of advice you would want to give them as they're thinking about AI or they're thinking about automation or just building? Like anything you would want to add before we wrap up the session here?
I would say, to B's point, we don't know what's under the hood. So like, to the extent you can, like, take what's valuable from all the hype, all the articles, everyone that's, creating noise on social media, and take what you can that will be valuable to you and just leave the rest and take it one step at a time. Like, honestly, my coach introduced this like time energy audit, and I found it where my time was going, and then just systematically started to work away at the things that were low value and that drained my energy, and find solutions, apply the technology to automate, eliminate those tasks, and just go one step at a time. Because when you see the shiny object and it's like, whoa, how do I get from here to there? That seems really impossible. Like, those people went through a journey too. And we also don't know what's under the hood and what's true. So just, focus on building a profitable business, because the businesses that actually need external funding are fewer than we think, and they're the ones that get all the press attention. Like, my company's fully bootstrapped and we are profitable, and I like it that way because I don't have to answer to anybody. And if I get to a point where external funding makes sense, I've got leverage because I'm profitable, I have customers, I have a product. So just, I would say, be discerning of what things appear like on social media, in the media, things like that. If I can do it, you can do it.
I'll add one thing, just overall how to think. I was at TED last week, and there was a talk there about predictions and how no one actually knows what the future looks like. And a prediction is a way to create the world that you want others to see. So if you have a bunch of tech founders, you have people that are like, literally, some of the economy is like being pumped up by putting so much money into AI, they need it to work. So there's all these predictions of where AI is going. To your point, like, when is the dream going to come true? You have to realize that this is also a way for them to subconsciously make you use it. If you're like, I have to use it, I have to do this. So be wary of like all the predictions that are there, because no one actually knows what's going to happen. They're just trying to create the world that they want to happen.
Yeah, and I would say time to market. So if we're talking about just like what would we share based on this experience, time to market is huge. And what a special time we live in, where we have so many AI tools that are accessible, and we can leverage that to test really early on and to continue to iterate. So just get your idea out there, obviously with the right guardrails in place, but get your idea out there. Don't be afraid to test with users firsthand. I got licensed as a realtor just so that I could frontline test my product with clients, and that's what I'm doing day to day, so that I can actually learn and continue to iterate on my solution. So don't be scared of testing, and like really, really lean into everything that is going to enable you for that specific problem that you want to solve. I think that's huge for any founder.
Well, I think for me right now, it's a good opportunity for me to take a look at using AI for my business, mainly because of the current economy. Gas prices are up, so that means a lot of businesses have to figure out how to cut costs, right? And so the thing that I'm doing right now, I just did it yesterday actually, was just looking at our financial statements and seeing where most of our money are going to, as well as time, but mostly money. And looking to reallocate the funds. So an example that I can give is right now we're spending about $1,000 on Google Ads a month, right? And so just yesterday I was thinking, okay, what if I spend $60, $70 on email marketing per month, right? And then reallocate like the other funds on maybe social media, which AI can do as well, right? And then just thinking about just how to build like a sales team as well. I'm not sure if AI can do that, but hiring, maybe AI can help with hiring, right? So that's what I was thinking about yesterday, how to just reallocate some of my funds so that I'm able to use the funds more efficiently than what we used to do before.
No, wonderful. Now, those were some great last thoughts here, and I would love to give a big round of applause to the panel here for giving us their time. For all the folks here, if anyone wants to learn more about AI, we're doing another webinar workshop mid-May, so please sign up if anyone wants to learn more about agentic AI, whether sales agents can be built for sales. So please feel free to be a part of it. But apart from that, just thank you for everyone for being a part of it and listening to us. Hopefully you guys learned something from this session. And thank you once again to the panel here for giving us their 1 hour today. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right.